Welcome back to the No Gray Areas podcast. I'm your host, Pat McCalla. This podcast is all about the idea that we make our choices and eventually our choices make us. And today's conversation is a powerful example of that truth. I'm joined by R.J. Johnson, a former teacher and coach whose one decision led to a 20-year prison sentence. But his story doesn't end there. What unfolds is a journey of transformation and a God who is working in and through R.J. through it all. Let's jump in my conversation with R.J. R.J., thank you so much for joining us on the No Gray Areas podcast. We want to just jump in. So tell us what led you to be here today.
Yeah, appreciate the invite, first of all. I guess the thing that I'm able to come here and give my testimony around is about 10, 12, 15 years ago, 2012, I made the choice to sexually assault one of my students. I was a high school teacher and coach in Colorado, and that choice that I made ended up with me laying on some train tracks trying to take my life and ultimately receiving a 20-year prison sentence in Colorado.
Wow. So you got to the point where you went to the train tracks because you were like, there's no reason to live anymore. You thought probably a lot of the loved ones had turned their backs on you. I mean, what were you thinking on going to the train tracks?
Yeah, I was actually in another job at the time. I had started doing headhunting and recruiting, and when I got the call that basically tipped it for me that there was going to be an arrest imminently coming, I knew I couldn't handle the consequences. So in my world, I didn't know Christ. I had no relationship with God. I was the most selfish and entitled person I knew. My only thought was, I can't handle this. I don't want to deal with this. So I went and grabbed a black sweatshirt, grabbed my cell phone, called 4 people and told them I got myself involved in something I can't get out of, can't deal with the consequences. I'm going to go lay on the train tracks and kill myself. Yeah. And the reason I chose the train was I grew up in a small town in Nebraska where railroading is the business. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And my dad used to always tell me, like, out of being wise, not ever as a strategy, make sure you always look both ways, bud. Trains are undefeated. They don't lose. And so I didn't want to try to do something with pills because my luck, I would have just turned into a vegetable. I can't handle blood, so that was a no-go. And so I found some tracks, made the calls, threw the phone in the back of the car, hid the car, and I walked up onto these tracks. And it was interesting. Growing up, my pops and I and my brother used to always put quarters on train tracks, squishing them. Mm-hmm. And he'd always tell me, he's like, if you can see the train coming, obviously you know which track it's on. If you can't see it, you can hear it. And if you can't hear it, you can feel it. Mm-hmm. And it was really late at night, super dark. Couldn't see a train. Couldn't hear a train. So I started feeling in this track, nothing. This track, nothing. This track was just rumbling. And the next one wasn't. I'm like, here we go.
You knew which track.
It's this one. So I pulled the black hoodie over, laid down, and waited for the end of my life to come. And as the train came rumbling towards me, I remember the thought was, this is literally what my life has become. I thought I had made this magnificent life, and this is how it's going to end. Then it rumbles by on the track beside me. Don't know how. I don't even know how to say this sentence normally. Like, was it on the, I guess it was on the wrong track, but I know it was the right track. It was, later I learned out it was the first miracle I got to witness from God, even when I didn't worship and recognize there was a God.
At this point in your life, you didn't recognize
Not
God. And
even
like you
close.
Said, how old were you at this point?
28, 29.
Okay.
And I jumped up and actually, I wish I could have said, like, there is a God. This is amazing. My first thought was, I can't even kill myself well. That's how that scene ended.
Yeah. And how much longer then? So you end up going to trial and you go to prison for, your sentence was 20 years?
20 years, yep.
Yeah.
Went home that night. There's a really cool story about that with my father. It's at the very, very end of the book. But turned myself in, ended up going through the court proceedings. That took about a year, 14 months. Eventually pled to 20 years prison. And November 2013, the day before Thanksgiving, November 27th, 2013 was day one of a 20-year, 240-month prison sentence.
That's a long time.
Yeah, they do that on purpose. They sentence you in months because 20s, I mean, 20 years is a big chunk,
Yeah.
but
But
20 is not a big number. 240 is big no matter how you look at it.
I
And
never thought about that.
yeah,
That's why they do that.
yeah,
It sounds more daunting. So
possibly.
did you go in on November 27th then? Or
Yeah.
that's the day?
That was the day that they gave me the sentence, turned around, cuffed up, walked me through the doors in the courthouse, and saw my mom collapse. My dad told me to keep my head up and chest out and that he loves me, and new life started. Scary life.
So I read your book, amazing book. We're going
Thank
to talk
you.
about that at the end, and you can tell the audience where they can go get it, but it's titled God Doesn't Waste a Thing, Meeting God Behind Bars.
Mm.
As we're doing this interview, I'm going to just periodically just read a quote directly from the book, okay? Because it kind of fits in where we're at. So at this point in the book, kind of where you're describing your life right now, where you tried to kill yourself and there was this miracle, and then your sentence, you said, I felt I was unlovable and eventually everyone was going to leave me.
Yeah.
That's where you were. That's kind of what you were feeling at this time.
Yeah. Not really understanding like grace and mercy. Like you're getting to interview me now, having this whole other perspective of forgiveness and redemption and transformation. At the time,
The RJ I'm talking to now
Yeah.
is different than
Yeah.
the 28-year-old RJ.
you probably wouldn't have liked that guy.
Yeah.
He would have found a way to manipulate you and use you and see how I could get something from you.
Yeah.
But no, this is a more selfless versus selfish. But that quote was coming right from, I always thought my identity was completely wrapped up and tied to how popular, how funny, how good I'm doing. And also, if people like me, then I'm successful. If people want me around, then I'm lovable. Nobody's going to want around a sex offender, someone who chose to do what I did for over 18 months. Like, so if no one wants me around, I'm unlovable. I'll have no friends. I have no identity. I don't even know I exist.
Wow. Which probably goes back to part of the reason you were willing to just lay down on the train tracks.
For sure.
Correct?
Yeah.
So you go into prison. And what was interesting in this story, reading the book, it seems like your dad has a special place in your heart.
Yeah. There you go. Early in the interview. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. He's my hero. And I say it often whenever I speak, whenever I do one of these. You're going to make me cry, bro.
That's all right.
Like, Jesus will always be one.
Mhm.
My dad will always be two. Chaplain Matt will always be three, and Chaplain Troy 4. Those 4 people in my life will never change. Person A may slide into 5th at best, but my dad's my hero. And truly, if you can get to the end of the book, you get to see the actual epitome of like what I call the prodigal father.
I got that quote down. I'm going to read that.
My man.
I'm going to read that. You want me to read it now or you want me to wait?
I'm on the ride with you, man.
Okay, let me read it now because I just want to make sure that I don't miss it. I wanted it to come back a little bit later, but I don't want to miss this because this was such a powerful part of the book, and it's at the very end of the book. You say, and then give us the context of this after I read it, because I don't remember exactly where this took place. If this was before you went in or later. You say, it was at this point he, my father, uttered words that will forever be implanted in my head and on my heart. He said, I promised your mother and God when you and your brother were born that I would take care of you guys until the day I died. So I came.
Yeah. So when I made the call to those 4 people, I called my mom, my dad, my brother, and my best friend at the time, Jake, who's still one of my greatest friends. The closest one of them was my brother, who is 3.5 hours away. My dad lives 4 hours away from Denver. I called him very selfishly. I made a choice, can't handle it, gonna kill myself, bye. Went and laid on the train track. After that clearly didn't work, thank God. I got up and I was still so petrified and so much adrenaline, I didn't know what to do. So I drove around Denver until I almost ran out of gas. I'd gotten rid of my credit cards and my ID and my money that was in my wallet because I'm like, they're going to be looking for me. I didn't even know I wasn't that big of a deal yet as far as like criminals that are out there. So when I was about to run out of gas, I headed home. And as I walked into my apartment on the top of because I was divorced now from my first marriage, I walked into this 3rd-story apartment and I took 2 steps in and I looked down the hall and my dad slid out of my bedroom in Denver, Colorado. And I looked at him, I go, what are you doing here? And he had tears just flowing down his face. I'm like, seriously, what are you doing here? He's like, I didn't know what else to do. I go, Pops, I called you and told you I was going to kill myself. What was your plan? And that's when he said, I had no plan. I promised your mother and God that I was going to take care of you and your brother until the day that I die. I'm still alive.
Wow.
So you call, I came.
Wow.
In that moment, I just saw a really cool, awesome moment with my dad, father, like, still like, you drove 4 hours. Like, what was your plan, bro?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know what was going to happen. After going through the 7 years of prison and then getting out, what's really interesting is never during that time did I sit back and go, that was a thing. It didn't hit me until when I was on a speaking tour a year after getting out, and Chaplain Troy, that number 4 guy on my list, introduced me to this audience and mentioned my dad right before, which is a whole nother story, maybe a part 2 of this podcast. And as I was up there talking, it hit me what he had done for me in that day. And that's when I made the comment of, they often talk about in the Bible it being the prodigal son story, the son coming back. We put those titles in the book. It wasn't like when it was written, they're like, this section should be titled The Prodigal Son.
Yeah.
That was the prodigal father. He came. And the most beautiful piece, man, was he just had his arms open, which is just like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the hallway, he didn't say, but before you come here, you better say sorry, you better repent, you better do this and this and that, and I better yell at you. And none of that. It was just come here, man. Like, come here now. And that has been the best example of what love in Jesus looks like in my life.
Yeah. And for our audience, some of our audience that may not know the prodigal story really well, in that story, it's in Luke 15, right, in the Bible. And what you're referring to, RJ, is when the prodigal son finally gets up and starts coming home, he doesn't get all the way home and never gets to give his speech that he had planned.
Yeah.
Like, Dad, I screwed up. I'm so sorry. He never gets to give it because his dad literally runs down the road toward him, opens his arms, hugs him, and the son doesn't even get to go through his whole speech because his dad's telling his servants, go get the best robe and let's hand him
a ring here.
Yeah, and so you saw that with your own father.
Yeah, and
at the most desperate moment in your life.
And I wish I would have been able to get to it a lot sooner, because I didn't thank him for that until I was out of prison.
Yeah.
But he didn't need to hear that. He still, to this day, has never one time yelled at me or anything.
Yeah.
Like, still hasn't been like, seriously, man?
Yeah.
You're pretty smart. Why'd you do what you did? Like, unbelievable father.
Wow.
I'm super, super lucky.
Well, in reading your book, he was very instrumental in some of the things that happened. And you didn't know this at the time, but he was really working hard to work some things to get you in a safe place, because he knew what happens with people with your crime in prison. It's not a good thing.
Yep.
And he really, in one sense, was used by God to save your life. Right? Didn't he get you moved? Was it? Am I remembering this right?
Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this episode so far. Be sure to like and subscribe to not miss a future podcast. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
When I got moved to the first prison, I made it about 3 days. They put me in a room with 3 of the white boys, which is what they're called in prison, the Nazis, the Aryan brothers. And that didn't work out well. They basically found out my crime, said, you can either fight us every day till you go and check in, prison slang, like go and turn yourself in, or you die, your choice. I chose to go and check in. Ended up at another prison, and it was at this other prison that my crime became public on the news, and everybody now knows. Like, in prison, you have a pretty good idea of what someone's in for, especially when you're not all inked up and you talk a little differently and you're like trying to correct people's language. Like, actually, it should be this instead.
That's
it's not
past tense.
It's not a great look when you're trying to like slide under the radar. But when I had become way more public, there was a time at this second prison in the book. I don't remember what I call it because I had to change locations, but it was Kit Carson. It's now closed. After lockdown at the last time, there's only 2 people who can open your door. Actually, after lockdown, only 1, a cop. Normally during the day, you or the cops can pop your door. It was after 10 o'clock, I remember, because the Tonight Show was on TV and my door popped, and in ran 3 of those new Nazis with shanks out, and they were saying, hey, we just saw you on TV. we know what you did and you're not going to live. And so that kind of started a clock of like, I don't know how to handle this. So I was getting on the phone calling my pops like, Dad, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. I still don't have a relationship with Christ. There's zero trust in anything other than I'm the best. Why would they want to hurt me? They don't even know me. And during this time, he was calling the prison saying, hey, you need to protect my son. Something's going to happen. And they continually told him, we have a lot of sex offenders. We have a lot. Don't worry. There's more of him around. Basically like, you don't just get a call here and help your kid. He's in prison.
Yeah.
Eventually he persevered, kept calling, nagging, relentless, to where the right guy picked up the phone, and that kind of started the trigger on me getting moved, which in itself is a whole nother amazing miracle, which I didn't even know God yet. And I can go into all these.
But let's go back. Let's go
Yeah.
there. I want to stay there because in the book, then you circle, it's such a audience, you got to read this book because you circle back way later in the book.
Yeah.
And you actually talk about what you didn't know was happening
sure.
in that moment. You end up meeting a gang member later on that was ready to kill you that day.
Instrumental.
And you had
in
no idea until
not a
years
chance.
later. So tell us that.
Yeah, I'll get the first part out at least. So I get, all of a sudden these cops come running into my room and they say, hey, turn around and cuff up. And at this point, I'm 9 months in on 20 years, don't really know how to do prison yet. And I'm still screaming like, why are you guys getting me? They're the ones who are trying to hurt me. They're out there. I did nothing wrong. And one of those cops goes, just go with it, man. Like, now I understand. He's like, this is to help you. It looks like you're fighting us. He takes me into this side room far away after getting harassed and yelled at by a bunch of other inmates. And this guy in a nice suit, hair's done well, which makes him look totally different than any other prison guard, asked the guards to uncuff me and leave the door and shut it. And his name was Pete. And he goes, Mr. Johnson, how you doing? I'm like, not good. Don't know what's going on. He goes, hold on 1 second. And he hits speaker and he goes, Steve, I got your son here with me and he's okay. And I hear my dad go, Rick, are you okay? Your mom and I love you. And I just started crying because he only calls me that name when I was really little or he's scared. He was doing things. And again, train, God didn't waste a thing there. I didn't even realize it was God here. You can't call in and be like, hey, I'd like you to move my son and I'd like to talk to him.
Yeah, guarantee you most
No.
parents don't get to call and have their sons moved.
It's a God moment,
Yeah,
but I didn't
sure.
even recognize it. So bottom line there was they realized something's happening. They knew the part of the story that you just asked about. I didn't.
Mhm.
I looked at him. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I can't tell you. We just have to find a place to put you where you'll be safe. So they actually went and hid me for like 6 months in protective custody. And basically were like, you're a little too much of a heat wave right now. You're 0 for 2. You've been in 2 prisons in 6 months and it hasn't ended well. And so that first part of it got me moved, which is what eventually led to, and if I'm talking way too much here, you
this is
stop me.
perfect. This is perfect.
It led me to this prison back in Denver where they put me on suicide watch because they figure you've almost been killed twice, probably want to kill yourself. So I get no razor. I don't get any canteen. I don't get to go to the yard or hang out with anybody. I'm alone in what they call 23-1 for 6 months. 23 hours a day. You are all alone, no talking, no socializing, nothing. Smaller than this that you have right now.
Wow.
8x6. And 1 hour a day, you get to choose to take a shower, go outside and stand in a dog cage and look up to see the sky, about a 10x3 wire cage, or you can use the phone. I always called my dad over and over and over again until eventually he's like, you need to go take a shower. I'm like, I don't. I have no value. There's no point in me showering. That shower story later becomes the lowest point of my entire life because cops put me in the shower, turned the water off, leave me there naked and cold and covered in soap, where they let other guards and inmates come by and basically just verbally assault me for 53 minutes. And it was in that time I'm sitting there, I just have my head down, covering up, going, I actually really wish I would have been able to have killed myself because I got to do this for the next 19 years. No, thank you. Well, fast forwarding about another month, my dad came to see me. And when he showed up, I'm usually pretty good at talking. I can throw words together fairly quickly. And I'm sitting there and I'm just rubbing my face. And he's like, stop. I'm like, what? He goes, do you even realize what you're doing? I'm like, no, Dad, what? What am I doing? He's like, you're unraveling. I got like a nervous tick. I haven't seen the sun for 6 months. I haven't talked to anybody but him on the phone. And it was in that moment, he's like, we need to figure out how to just keep you alive. And so we found out that we could request to be put into protective custody for the remainder of my sentence until the year 2032. We went to a hearing and asked to be put into protective custody until 2032.
Wow.
Spoiler alert, I'm out.
Yeah.
2026 now. 2020, I got out. Had I got my way, which is a great thing for your listeners to hear. A lot of times when you're begging and telling God
best.
what you know is best, no's are pretty great answers sometimes.
Yeah.
But I was sitting in that meeting with basically the protective custody hearing committee, and her first thing when I sit in there is she goes, your beard. I'm like, yeah. She goes, it's amazing. It's a wonderful disguise. It's like, lady, this beard is not a disguise. You won't give me a razor. You have me on suicide watch. She goes, no one will be able to recognize you. We can send you another yard. And it says here you have a couple of master's degrees. You can go and teach GED. I was like, why are we talking about facial hair and math, lady? I don't want to get killed.
Yeah.
And she made the choice to deny my request, thank God, and sent me to Territorial Correctional Facility where I met Chaplain Matt, Chaplain Troy, gave my life to Christ, began to see all of these unbelievable miracles coming through. And that's probably a good place to pause and let you ask a question.
Would never
dude,
have happened if you would have gotten the yes that you wanted.
I'd still be sitting there.
Yeah.
That was my
In
suggestion.
solitary confinement.
I actually yelled at her when she's like, I got all we need. It was a 7-minute meeting. I got all we need. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know better than you. And I'm handcuffed thinking I'm smarter than you while wearing prison greens.
Yeah. Actually, can I read this quote?
Yeah,
from
please.
the book? You almost quoted it right here. You said, I'm sitting in prison because of how great of choices I make, yet I still believe wholeheartedly I am the one who knows what is best.
Yeah.
I think that was from that part of the book where you're describing that.
And that same exact quote came falling out of my mouth 3 years later when they wanted to move me from the territorial prison to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a slow learner
Yeah.
on some parts, but
Yeah.
there was some unbelievable miracles and some really great times at that territorial prison that happy to share. There's some things that I've never been able to even explain quite well enough to where people could imagine just how amazing our God is. Yeah. And it's often my big line of like, God is still in the miracle business.
Yeah.
Just in society, people often chalk it up to good doctors or a lot of money or he was having a good day.
Yep.
When you get rid of all money, all special clothes, all financing, all doctors, and you're just sitting in prison and you start to see these things, there's only one place that you can give glory to.
Yeah.
And that was so cool.
So I just want to stay on the story for just a moment. When they come in and they cuff you and you're wondering like, why am I getting cuffed? These are the ones that were threatening my life and everything. But you find out like 3 years later when you're sent back that if they wouldn't have cuffed you that day and brought you in there, that you were a dead man.
Yep.
Right?
That would have been so even further. I got moved that day and was sent to territorial where I spent 3 years there, eventually working as a chaplain clerk. Then I get moved again, kicking, screaming, quite a few tears, not a great look. And I get to the prison. I eventually get released from Fremont. While I was at Fremont, I don't tell this story much. I was working as the sales manager of the furniture department. Prison, cheap labor. So we made all the furniture for the Department of Transportation, labor, education, universities, and all the other interstate like conglomerates, just kind of money flowing from hand to hand. And as I was in there at my desk taking sales orders, I look behind me and in walks a really good looking suit, nice hair. And I'm looking, I was like, Pete? I haven't seen him since he said, Steve, I got your son. 2 totally different prisons, 6 years later. And I walk up and I want to give him a hug, but not allowed to, give him a handshake. And he's like, this still blows my mind. He goes, oh my gosh, how have you been, RJ? How is your dad, Steve, doing? And it rocked me like, oh, you actually cared.
Yeah.
And he goes, do you want to actually know what almost happened that day when I came and got you? I was like, yeah. So I went into my major's office. The major was the one in charge of the furniture shop. Me and Pete and the major, and we're sitting in there, and he's like, all right, I'm going to tell you this. I'm like, why didn't you tell me this at the beginning? He's like, I don't think you would have been able to handle it or survive. I'm like, all right, what do you got? He goes, well, that day when your dad kept calling and calling and calling and calling, we had another inmate walk by my office and say, hey, just want to let you know that you have an inmate who's about to get killed today. And then he ran away because that's like dry snitching. That inmate could get in a lot of trouble. So it was just enough to be like, here's a tip, bro. You may want to pay attention. As my dad was calling, he got the call, started to put this together. When he came and got me, he told me, he's like, there was a plan. There was like 100-yard stretch called a dog run from our unit to where we ate chow at that prison. 8 feet wide, chain links on both sides, locked gates on both ends, no cameras. Their plan was for when you got called to chow, RJ, they were going to shut the door behind you and lock the one in front. And those guys were going to either hurt you really poorly or take you out in a body bag was their goal. And I'm sitting there listening to this. I was like, this really almost happened? He goes, yeah, we actually went and found the 2 guys and they had the shanks in their boots. So I was about 45 minutes away from dying and you made that choice. He's like, yeah, that's why we had to move quick because once chow was called, game over.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. He's like, well, there's more. I'm like, there's more?
There's more.
What the heck? And he goes, one of the head general shot callers of the gang that basically put the green light on you in prison, that term means like good to go, green light. Anybody can go and hurt him.
So can I just jump into your story really quick for our audience that may not know, and including me, because I haven't done prison time. But when you say shot caller, you're basically saying there's someone in there that kind of can point to you and say green light on him. You take him out if you want or hurt him if you want. Yeah. Is that true?
It's a very political game. Like when you hear political in prison, they mean very gang sensitive and very active. In society, it's clearly red and blue.
So there's still a hierarchy and all
for
that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so the shot caller is the one who's kind of paid his time, done all of the things that he's needed to do, where he now kind of sits back and says, you 3 little missiles, they go and cause the pain, the wrecks. Go do this.
So the shot caller said, kill him.
They don't get to make decisions. He does it.
Okay.
And so when he was talking, he's like, one of the guys who did that is on this yard with you now. In my head, because still, like, I'm a believer. I've been following Christ now for like 5 years, and I began discipling people, so I'm quite a bit more mature, but I still haven't ever uttered the words, God doesn't waste a thing. I still haven't put together the train and my dad, and even the long beard is what got me. None of that. I'm still living like, I just got to survive and just try to live the best I can. I say to them like, well, that's a pretty big deal. How could you guys not figure that out? It seems like you could put like a flag on 2 names, like don't put these 2 together. And he goes, do you want to know who it is? I'm like, yeah, I think I do. So I can try to be wise. And he tells me, I'm like, oh, yeah, it kind of makes sense. Him and I had been playing softball against one another, and we certainly weren't friends, but he would constantly poke fun at me and give me a hard time and say sex offender and all sorts of words on the yard that usually trigger people to go and fight. I'm like, okay, doesn't make me happy, but he's been around here for a while and he hasn't tried to kill me again, so thank God. Also, once you kind of establish yourself in prison, people tend to be like, there's a lot more annoying people we can go and harass.
Yeah.
RJ's clearly doing something differently over here.
Yeah.
And so I didn't go run up and give him a hug and like, hey, we need to talk. That's later on in the story where almost exclusively like the first super challenging part of where my ministry got its name came into fruition. Once I'd given my life to Christ, I remember saying like, I'm willing to do whatever you call me to do, Lord. Easy, medium, hard. Not my will, your will be done. Never up until this point had he really called me to go do something super hard. It was usually like, go and pray for that dude, or go and share the gospel with that guy. Not what he was calling me to do there.
What did he call you to do here?
Yeah. So in prison, at our specific prison, there's a weight pile, which is just like an outdoor, just like what you'd see in the movies, like metal, rusty weight equipment that's inside of a prison, inside of more fences, locked up inside of more fences. And it's usually pretty segregated, but what's the common thing is everybody in there is working out. You're not getting the weak and the annoying and the like, I don't want to hang out. So this is the worst place ever to go and like cause an incident. Because if you get this place closed down, you just upset the strongest people on the yard.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm over there working out. I'm doing the bench with one of my buddies. And as I'm benching, it's the first time I've ever audibly heard, go over there and talk to this guy. And I remember racking the weight and looking up, and I'm like, over there was that guy with all of his little gang buddies. And I'm like, no, I'm certainly not going to do that. So I get behind and he's doing his set and I'm sitting there like, that's weird. Haven't ever heard that. And then I get back down, it's my set, and I unrack it. And as I'm benching, I hear it again, go now and talk to him about me. And I rack the weight and I stand up and I start walking that way. And my buddy goes, well, where are you going? I'm like, I got to go talk to him. And he's like, why? I'm like, God told me to. He's like, what are you supposed to talk to him about? I'm like, God? He goes, please don't go, RJ. 1, they don't like sex offenders. You're the loudest one here. 2, they don't like Christ followers. And 3, you're all of those. Andy's already tried to kill you. Please don't go. I'm like, I think I need to. And as I'm walking, I remember Chaplain Matt, Jesus, my father, Chaplain Matt, saying, if you ever don't know how to pray, just pray, Lord, this is what I feel you're calling me to do. If it's not, make it impossible. So as I'm walking these
that's good
30 feet, as slow as I can, I'm like,
you're praying that prayer pretty hard.
Lord, if you could just like cause an earthquake here in the middle of Colorado, or maybe someone else can get in a fight, or maybe call the yard in. Just next thing I know, I'm standing this close to him and all of his friends are like, get away from here, you sex offender, bleep. I'm like, man. And he looks at me and I go, hey, do you mind if I talk to you? I mean, when you're done with your workout, are you okay with that? He's like, what about? And I go, God. And I close my eyes and turn thinking, best case, he just knocks me out and they can just drag me away so no one else gets in trouble. And he didn't punch. He goes, yeah. After my work, I'm like, cool, bye. Boom. And I ran back. I'm like, that's all you called me to do, God, was go talk to him about asking. About 40 minutes later, when the weight pile closed, he came up. He's like, you done? Ready to go talk? I'm like, oh, you're serious? I thought you just didn't want to beat me up in front of your friends. He's like, no, what do you want to talk about? So we went and talked, and I talked to him about Joseph, which was really impactful for me. It literally like parallels my story now. And I don't bring up that I know the whole situation that whole first night. At the end of that talk, he goes, would you mind coming back out tomorrow night? I have more questions. I want to talk to you about this. I was like, absolutely, for sure. That second night when we were talking, I go, hey, I just want to let you know, I know what was about to go down at the other prison. I forgive you. It's actually probably the thing that got me here. That was the thing that got me. Now I know it better to put all these in place, to get moved, to grow a beard, to move to territorial, to be known by Christ, to know Christ, to get moved here to where I have the confidence to come and talk to you. Like, you started the ball rolling.
Wow.
Which is amazing. Like in Joseph, when he looks at his brothers, like, what y'all intended for evil, God was using for good. God can use anybody. And will.
So how did he receive that?
Really well. And we didn't become like big best friends, not a whole lot of like glorious hugs, and we weren't hanging out all the time, but we were social. And he eventually started to write for the newspaper that me and a few other buddies had started, but it wasn't demonstrative. It was very, very cool. And then an even further part of that story in the book, when I get out, this thing started happening quite a bit. People were wanting to hear about the story, and I was able to piece together things that really pointed to what God was doing in my life. And I realized this was like one of those pivotal moments where easy's cool, hard's where faith comes in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
That's true.
thank God he only said you need a faith of a mustard seed, because I may have had like the babiest of the mustard seeds. Like it might have been a mustard seed. I'm not sure. But I knew I wanted to be able to share this story. So I wrote him a letter inside and said, hey, I don't know if you thought about this at all, or if you're still active in the gang life or whatever your situation may be, but here's what I'm up to. I'm out now. This is what I'm doing. And I'm looking to write this book. And I want to be able to put what we went through in there, but not if it's going to cause you pain and problems. If you're still active and they read this one day and they're like, is this you who was liking being friends with the sex?
Wouldn't be good for him in prison. Yeah.
I wanted to get his signature, blessing, whatever word you want to use. Sent off the letter and literally never thought I'd hear anything back. In the book's the actual letter. He wrote back to me and said, hey, it's so great to hear from you. I've actually been thinking and talking about you and our story quite a bit. Since I left Fremont, that prison, I gave my life to Christ. I walked away from the gangs, and I'm reading this. I remember I was pulled over on the interstate.
Wow. Going
home to Nebraska. I'm like, what is going on? Because the mail was just in the car and I was just thumbing through it. And I remember thinking, like, this is the greatest Saul to Paul conversion there is.
Yeah,
like, you think I may have a testimony. Look at this.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to just be able to hear him say, like, our testimony. And it's just really, God doesn't waste a thing, man. He really doesn't.
You know, and that's one thing I loved reading about your book, because you always finish almost every chapter with that, God doesn't waste a thing. And then you got another story, another chapter, God doesn't waste a thing. Another story, another chapter, God doesn't waste a thing. And I've always liked that. In fact, one of the terms that I use, I borrowed it from someone, I don't remember who, but God is the great recycler. And that's what I think about with that. He doesn't waste a thing. He recycles everything. There's nothing in your life, even your brokenness, your most broken moment. That's what your testimony is so powerful about, right, RJ? Is God didn't waste that. He said, I'm going to redeem you. I'm going to free you from the bondage of that, but I'm also going to use that story for good now.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I like that you noticed. Not a lot of people notice that I put God doesn't waste a thing at the end of every chapter. I totally hijacked that from Matthew McConaughey and Green Lights. If you ever read that book.
It's a great book. Yeah.
I just straight up was like, I like how he put a bow on every single chapter.
Yeah.
And when I wrote the book, each chapter is literally just like one sticky note of like what event led to the next thing, which led to the next thing, which led to the big thing. But what I pray for other people when I go and speak is everybody has that story.
Yep.
Most people don't have the ability, the perspective, the time, the patience to step back and go, how did I end up here? How'd I end up with that wife? How'd I end up at that job? Or how'd I end up with this career? Well, I met that person. I only met them because I actually had a flat tire. And that flat tire is what led to, that was the real blessing of, I went and spoke about my journey 20, 25 times before I ever wrote the book.
Yeah.
And it was really cool for people to be like, well, how'd you even end up at that prison? Great point.
Yeah.
This is. And when I look back, every single thing, at least for the first 2 or 3 like prisons, I was saying something completely different. I don't want to go, I don't want to go to prison. Best thing for me. I mean, let's be honest, I don't ever want to spend another night there, but I have a prison ministry and my goal is to be in prison as much as I can. It changed my life. Best thing ever. Didn't want to go to protective custody. I did want to go to protective custody. Didn't want to go territorial. Didn't want to leave territorial, which got me to Fremont, which is the only prison in Colorado that was giving sex offense treatment. I was probably told no 6 or 7 times. And if even one of them would have been a yes at that time, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
I'm still in prison until 2032.
So all these things in your life, you want it to go this way and it goes another way. But when in hindsight, as you look back, you go, oh, I can see how God was orchestrating that and using that.
Hard push.
Has that changed? Because the difficult thing is for any of our listeners, me included, when we're living our life, we're not living it backwards. We're living it. We're in that moment. So now when you look back and you get to see and you say at the end of every chapter, God doesn't waste a thing. Is that helping you live better now? Like when you come up against something where you're like, that's not how I want it to go, God, do you step back a little sooner now and go, okay, we'll see where this goes?
I'm glad you said sooner. Not immediate, but sooner.
Yeah.
I shared with you, I was coming in, I was listening to one of your preachings from a few years ago, and the reason you got to the part about Revelation was you're like, John was sitting there like, I feel like we're supposed to be winning this, but it seems like we're losing.
Yeah.
That hit me so hard on the right here of like, that is life, like in a nutshell. So even now, if I hear something that doesn't seem great, if I lose a donor, I'm not like, well, God's not going to waste this. I'm sure it's going to work out amazing. I know that's going to be true, but in the moment, it hits, it hurts when you get bad news, when you get in a bike wreck, when something happens. But I am very proud of this. And Chaplain Matt used to say this a lot. He goes, there's a couple reasons why I know that the Holy Spirit lives and breathes and is working in this world. He goes, one, RJ, you are the most entitled and selfish person I'd ever met. And he'd been doing 17 years of prison ministry. The most entitled people are in prison.
Wow.
It wasn't a great compliment. There was a follow-up to that.
Say that's not a
he
good
said,
compliment.
now you are the most selfless. Nobody makes that change without the Holy Spirit living and breathing and resonating through them.
Yeah.
Glory to God. Because me, I want what I want, not what's best for you. Yeah. That's had to be a heart posture switch. And two, he goes, when you first gave your life to Christ, when something would happen, you would proverbially go lock yourself in your own prison cell and be like, I can't deal with this. I got a bad letter. I got bad news. This family member's not talking to me. These friends have nothing to do with me. People are writing my mom saying, we wish your son would have actually been dead because he's embarrassed us. He goes, but over the course of your maturity, you would be in your own timeout for 2 months. Your attitude would be garbage. And then something would happen. It'd be a month.
He's seeing growth.
And then it'd be maybe 2 weeks. And then it'd be a week. And then it'd be maybe a couple hours. You're like, you know what? God's got this. This isn't great. However, and he constantly would point back to, and I cherry picked the majority of like what I teach and lead people in. He would always say, if you live off of feelings, my man, you're going to be going back and forth.
Man,
you have to keep taking it to truth.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and I like how you said that, how you answered. You haven't arrived there yet.
Oh, yeah.
And we won't in this life, but you're doing better with it.
Yeah.
Because you can look back and see where, and I think that's the same in my life too, RJ, that I lived, we have two totally different stories, but when I look back, I can see so many times where I wanted something to turn out this way and it turned out a different way. But eventually, given enough time, I go, I see what you were doing, God. Oh, thank you. It's that old country song, right? Thank God for unanswered prayers, right? Like we think we know. But one of the things that I thought was so interesting reading the book, and I don't know that you really said this, but you get the feeling for our audience. If you read the book, you'll see what I'm talking about. That in some ways you were more free in prison than you had been before prison. Like, and you don't spend a lot of time talking about who you were before.
Yep.
But I just get this, once you come to Jesus and once you start learning more about him and his grace and his mercy in your life, you're still locked up. You're still in prison. You don't have the freedoms that most of the audiences has, but you're free like you've never been before. Speak into that a little bit.
Yeah.
As we're wrapping up this episode, be sure to leave us a 5-star review. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment on something you'll take away. All right, let's hop back into the remainder of the episode.
Interesting point. The logic behind running the race of society, bigger, faster, richer, stronger, better looking, like I said earlier, like my identity was kind of wrapped up in self-image. I was super overweight for such a long time in my life that I never got the attention. I never got the accolades, oh my God, it's that guy. So when I finally lost weight, all of my attention that I was receiving was building this false ego. I was so overwhelmed and tired in society of like chasing happiness and chasing the applause and chasing, oh, there's that guy, and terrible sense of self-esteem and self-worth. When I get to prison, 95% of the people make $12 a month. Money's level. We all have the same green clothes. You get 3 green outfits, I get 3 green outfits. Same garbage jobs, same medical, same bunk, same shower. There's no longer
Yeah.
that race. Like
Yeah.
people still try to make their image look a little bit better. But what I had found out was, and I'd made up the saying of me three. Once I gave my life to Christ, the goal is now going to be me three. Put God first, the person in front of me second, which is you right now, and me three. I'm the third most important person in that situation.
Yeah.
And that was a complete shift from me one, me two, me three, maybe my ex-wife four, me five, me six. It is a drastic switch. And so when all I need to do is wake up every day, be thankful I have a Lord, try to be the best friend and servant I can be for you. How can I help you today? That sets yourself up for some pretty awesome days.
Yeah.
It is hands down. It was, no one believes me, my best job ever, still to this day. And I run my own ministry, was when I was a chaplain clerk making 87 cents a day.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
pretty sad.
You know, and I love that me three in there in the book. You talk about that. I hadn't thought about this until you just explained it, though, RJ, that living that way also really helps you live in the moment too, doesn't it? As I get older, you know, I turned 54, you start realizing you have less runway in front of you. The days start meaning more. You start going like, I don't have forever. I don't have like this last fall. We made a last second decision to run up and see the colors in Flagstaff because I woke up and I just thought, you know, I don't know how many more falls I have. I got to go. So
Interesting.
living in the moment is something that I'm trying to get a lot better at. But I think when you live, the me three really helps you live in the moment, because when it's like, okay, it's God first, then whoever's in front of me, whoever that is, if that's my wife, if that's my kids, if that's the barista, that's the next person I'm going to have this most important, and then it's me. I think what that does is really ground you to live in the moment probably more.
Yeah, I used to realize that I was having a majority of my encounters were like, I may remember that or not, like for the person I was engaging in. If not, they might be like, that guy's kind of arrogant. So I realized there's like three outcomes. They could leave going, that was amazing. That was such a blessed time. Two, that was terrible. He just was a bad part of my day. And very rarely anymore is it like, So if I can make sure that I'm focusing on you and giving you my best effort, my best self, grace, love, try to share some joy, no matter if you have a 2-year sentence and it's like, bro, you're crying about 2 years. I got 20. Or you're 19 years old and you got sentenced to 95 years. And it's like, that's heavy, man. My goal was to make every single encounter one that was memorable, fun, loving, full of joy, encouragement. And that changes your culture. That changes your community. And it opens yourself up for, like, I had more fun. Like, if you were to have me write down my top 20 memories of the last 30 years, I bet you 12 of the 20 are in prison.
Really?
For sure.
See, and that's what I mean when I say, that comes across in the book some. That's what I mean. You were almost more free in prison than you were before prison. And you get that sense. But that's what God did to you, isn't it?
Yeah, you ask my dad or one of the chaplains, they'd be like, make sure you let your listeners know that there was some really bad phone calls and really scary times. There were. But once the ground stops shaking and God becomes the focal point and you're not like worried about getting shanked at every corner, he really just provides a community.
Yeah.
I still have such a great community in there.
Yeah.
Of my two best friends right now, one is serving life in prison for murder, and the other one was that chaplain who I named my book after his kids.
Yeah.
It's the most dichotomous of friends that you could have. Murderer
And a chaplain.
and a chaplain. And they're friends.
Yeah.
But what's cool is, like, now when we speak about it, I just share his crime for the sake of, like, his sentence. I believe he's going to get out.
Yeah.
If you look at his sentence online, it doesn't say so, but his identity is in Christ now.
Yeah.
He's in the book.
Yeah.
And that is the joy that when you scratch everything away and you can just have a heart to heart, this conversation has been so blessed.
Yeah.
Nothing else is needed.
Yeah.
That's what you get when you're in a prison.
And it's such a picture of how God's kingdom is. I mean, it almost sounds like the start of a joke. A chaplain, a sex offender, and a murderer walk into a bar, right? It sounds like the start of a joke.
I can't hope till that happens. We need to get the third party out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But it, like you're saying, these are two of your closest friends now, a chaplain and a murderer. And God loves to redeem story. He loves to bring people together that would never have been together. Even the guy that you were talking about earlier, you guys weren't buddy, but I mean, he was a guy that was going to kill you. And now you're writing back and forth while he's in prison and he's become a believer. RJ, I wish our time went so
I'm
fast.
so
I can't
bad.
even believe it. We may have to have you back sometime for part 2.
One of my best friends lives out here. I'll
Does
fly
he really?
out. Yes,
okay,
sir.
we got to do this again sometime
He was in the
because
book.
I would love to spend some more time. And I mean, there's so many other stories we could talk about. But before we go, what would you like to say to our audience, just as an encouragement about who God is to you?
Yeah. The thing that jumps out the most, well, who God is to me is my Lord and my Savior. I have chosen to look at Jesus as the central point in my life, who I look to for wisdom, who I look to for comfort, who I look to for joy. And then around that, I get to add my friends, my family, and my beautiful bride. But if you don't have a relationship with God, with Jesus, pick up the Bible, call someone that you know who does, listen to this, reach out to the podcast, and make that a focal point of your life. It will be the best decision and the most important decision you'll ever make.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I've come to the point in my life, RJ, where I say now, even if eternity wasn't a reality, I believe it, completely believe it is, and I'm living for eternity. We live for that day as followers of Jesus. But even if I found out it wasn't, that when I die, just go back to dust, I still believe that following Jesus is the best way to live this life.
That's
Even
excellent.
if there isn't eternity,
Come on.
I would still rather live without bitterness and choosing to forgive and with joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness, the things that the Spirit offers us. I would take that even if there was no eternity. On top of that now, we do get eternity.
Amen.
But it's the way to live, so.
Keep that camera rolling. Just keep preaching, bro. You got it.
Well, man, I really appreciate it so much. How do people get the book, or how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah. NotMyWillMinistries.com is my website. The book is God Doesn't Waste a Thing, but it's authored by my pen name, Luke Chance. I kind of briefly touched on it.
Yeah.
My best bud, Troy, his 2 kids' names are Luke and Chance, and that was one of my big ways to say thank you and honor him. So
that's amazing.
There's a link to the book off my website.
Okay.
Tons of information. Obviously, Amazon will get you there too.
So give us the name of the ministry again.
Not My Will Ministries.
Okay. If they look that up, Google, it'll find it. It's notmywillministries.com.
Yep.
Yeah, and we'll have that in our notes as well.
Awesome.
So really, really appreciate it.
This
is the fun thing about the interview is we do 2 truths and a lie. So pull out your phone if you need it, because you said you wrote them down. This is a fun way for our audience to get to know you a little bit better. We've heard you for about an hour. So you're going to give me 3 statements. Yep. 2 will be true. 1 will be a lie. I got to try to guess the lie.
That's why I wrote them, so I can try to get into normal mode here.
Yeah.
One of my regrets from being a kid was choosing not to have my mouth wired shut.
Wow.
My wife and I are the number 2 ranked pickleball duo in Colorado, and my friends in prison gave me the nickname Scare Bear, which is not a good thing, obviously.
Okay. I'm going to go with the pickleball one is true.
No.
Oh,
funny.
Off the bat, I lost.
You would look at my wife and be like, she's super athletic, but hand-eye coordination's garbage. She's no chance. No, love her to death. But she'll out-push up you, but she will not be able to do this.
Yeah, she's probably right. I'll go to RJ. Thank you for bringing that up. But,
yeah.
Okay, so pickleball I was thinking like, okay, maybe you did some pickleball in prison or something. I didn't know. That's why I went with that one. So I struck out right away.
That is
so
the lie.
It is true. You regret not getting your mouth wired shut?
Yeah, when I was in high school, my teeth actually come down on top of one another, and I was grinding them so bad that they wanted to break my jaw and wire it shut for 12 weeks. But my favorite 2 things to do at the time were eat and talk.
Yeah.
That's a hard no when you have your mouth wired shut. I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
And it really would have saved me a lot of problems from not grinding my teeth and getting crowns.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And then Scare Bear was truly a nickname you had.
Yeah. You know, I tried making up my own nickname, which so many people have, like Chaos and Killer and Pokey and all these cool ones. I'm terrified of spiders. Terrified. And little did I know, the tarantula migration pattern goes right, goes right through Canyon City, Colorado, which is
I
where
hate
all
spiders too. Oh.
So they'd show up, and there was a time you're not supposed to run when you're going around the guards. Like, you can run in the yard, but not chow halt a unit. I was walking back from chow like we did all the time with my buddy Scotty and with Evan. Evan's the one in the book that I talk a lot about, Scotty too. And I see this like black thing kind of moving along the sidewalk. And Scotty's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, what? He goes, you see that? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, look, it's almost a toucher. And as soon as I looked down, I freaking took off. The guard's like, slow down. I'm like, not going to happen, bro. Took off like the whole get it off me thing. And from that moment, they're like, yeah, your new nickname is Scare Bear. You get scared at anything. I'm like, that is not a good name to have going around prison.
In prison, you do want something like Chaos or something, but
For
not
sure.
Scare Bear.
Like anything other than like whiny or cry or little baby.
That's a great story.
And they'll
Great
still
story.
call me that when certain things happen. Like, oh, Scare Bear.
Well, listen, maybe we'll have you back on the podcast and we'll introduce you next time. Welcome back, Scare Bear.
I'll be here.
Okay.
Sign me up, man. This has been great.
RJ, thank you so much. Audience, you got to go run out and get this book. I promise you, it's a powerful story, but there's so many life lessons and principles in there for all of us as well. So appreciate you taking the time, RJ.
Thank you. This has been awesome.
Wow. If there's one thing to take away, it's that transformation is possible for you and me, but it requires surrender. If this episode impacted you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And as always, thank you for being part of the No Gray Areas community, where we remember that we make our choices and eventually our choices make us. Have a great week.